In today's episode, we're going to be talking about lead generation and how to book more calls with clients. Now, just really quickly, for some context here, who here has gotten a DM, a cold DM from a person that was like unwarranted and you didn't really want to talk to them? So maybe it was a business coach that slid into your DMs. They just started following you and they slide into your DMs. Maybe it's somebody trying to sell you Herbalife or some other network marketing thing. And they just kind of slide into your DMs. And as soon as they're in your DMs, you know exactly what they want. You know exactly what they want. You know what they're about. You're like, I know that you want to sell me something. And immediately we get turned off when somebody sends us a cold DM, right? It's happened to me too. Like if somebody sends me a long, cold first message, instantly, the first thing I think is I'm like, obviously you want something from me and I'm not really that interested. So we've all gotten those cold DMs from business coaches or marketing people or people that can help us grow our social media account with 5,000 real followers. So we all get that. So my question for us online coaches is, I think that a lot of us understand that sending cold spammy DMs is never a good thing, which is why we hate doing it. But a lot of us try to do this in our business. Something that I see in a lot of online fitness coaches is everybody has this common misconception that when it comes to booking calls with strangers or getting on the phone call with potential clients, that they're either trying to do it from hashtags or they're trying to do it from Facebook groups. So a lot of people get this idea that they want to, expand their audience. And so they'll go into a Facebook group with the intention of booking phone calls with potential prospects. So they might, talk to somebody in a Facebook group back and forth, and then they'll add them as a friend. And from adding them as a friend, they try to go directly for a phone call. But if we don't like it when people are sending us spammy cold DMs on Facebook and Instagram, then why do we go out there and why are we the ones that are sending those spammy cold DMs? So if you're on hashtags and Facebook groups right now and you're trying to book phone calls, you essentially are being that person that's sliding into DMs unwarranted. We don't like when strangers try to sell us things. Nobody does. So sliding into the DMs of strangers without any sort of context or relationship is always going to be a bad move. For those of you guys that are taking notes that are listening to this podcast, I want you to write this down. Booked calls come from relationships. Booked calls come from relationships. See, most of you guys as online fitness coaches, what you're trying to do is you're trying to take the short route. I see this happen with I would say 60 to 70% of online coaches. So if you are doing this right now, be aware of this. Most online coaches try to take the short route. And so they'll come into social media and they'll try to book as many phone calls as they possibly can with their potential prospects. So they'll go online and they'll try to slide into the DMs of people and they'll do their calls to action. And they're saying now accepting clients. They'll put their type form in their bio. They'll go on hashtags, try to book calls. But they're not going onto the platform with the intention of building relationships. Booked calls come from relationships. And so when you guys see my social media, and let's say you'll see a client that will join my program, and then within the first 30 days, they make $10,000. That has happened before. And so when it does happen, everybody else starts to think, well, if it's happening for them, why isn't it happening for me? I'm going to tell you why. Because most of the people that come into my program that make $10,000 in their first 30 days have established relationships with people on social media before they come into my program. And so they might have been posting for 1, 2, or 3 years, and they never had a strategy. And now they learn a strategy on how to book those phone calls and actually make those sales, and it takes off. But the way that a lot of online coaches come into my program is a lot of people come into my program with absolutely no experience. And so they don't have any posting on social media. They haven't built any sort of relationships with people. And then they're expecting to come into the program and get results like people that are making $10,000 in the first 30 days. Now, I'm not saying that result is impossible. What I am saying is that booked calls are going to come from relationships. And so if you're brand new to social media and you are only posting 1, 2, 3 times a week, you don't have a lot of relationships on social media, which means you're not going to be able to book a lot of phone calls, which means your intention coming into social media cannot be to book calls because you won't be able to book any calls unless you have relationships. Booked calls come from relationships. And so you need to establish relationships with people on social media if you want to book phone calls with your prospects. And how do we establish relationships? Well, relationships come in a variety of fashion, but the number one premise for relationships is this: people need to know you, like you, and trust you. And so it's through giving value and posting content that you build relationships. It's through giving value and posting about your story, about what made you decide to be an online fitness coach and why you believe you're an expert, that clients come to know you, like you, and trust you. It's through giving out valuable content that people can actually take action on, whether that be in an Instagram story or a Facebook Live or an Instagram post or a TikTok post or on LinkedIn or on YouTube or whatever platform you want to tackle. It is through giving more than you ask for that you start to build relationships with people in your audience, and they start going like, yo, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. Like this Joshua guy, like every time he posts, I get something from it. And I'm like, I'm feeling it. Like, this is like, this guy's good. Are you guys with me so far? If you're like tuning in right now, just like drop a hell yes. Let me know that you're still with me. If you guys are listening to the podcast right now, just like give me a nod. Okay. So then the next question, if booked calls come from relationships, then how do you build relationships? How do you build relationships? Okay. So the number one thing I'm going to talk about before I get into where you find your hottest leads and how to book phone calls is this. Consistency is the number one thing that you need to master, online fitness coaches. Consistency is number one. If you're listening to this podcast right now and you're not posting 3 to 5 times a week, then take that as your first step and you can leave the podcast now. You need to post 3 to 5 times per week. If you're not there yet, that's why you're not making money. Period. End of story. No questions asked. Social media is free. Don't tell me that you don't have enough time to post on social media. You can go on your lunch break at work for 5 minutes and you can write a post in the bathroom stall if you really need to. Like, posting 3 to 5 times a week is like the fundamental premise of actually building relationships with people on social media. Okay, so let's make the assumption that you're there right now. Let's make the assumption that you're posting 3 to 5 times a week. Let's talk about where your hottest leads are going to be once you start posting on social media. I'm going to give you guys what to do and what not to do. So we're going to start with what not to do. Here's what not to do. Do not open up your social media, go to hashtags, try to find 30 to 50 prospects and try to book phone calls with them. Because in terms of, I'm going to give you guys 7 different places to find leads, and Facebook groups and hashtags are the last place that you want to look for clients. They're still on the list, but they're the last place. Most online trainers will try to go to Facebook groups and hashtags as the first place, which is why they're struggling to book phone calls, because you've got no established relationship with any of these people. And so you're trying to book a phone. That'd be like trying to knock on my neighbor's door and being like, hey, bro, like me and you live in the same neighborhood and I sell fitness coaching. Do you want to hop on a phone call? He's going to be like, just because we're in the same neighborhood doesn't mean that like I'm interested in your service. Just because somebody's using a hashtag that says weight loss doesn't mean they want to buy shit off of you. And so hashtags and Facebook groups are a good way to find your prospects. But in terms of booking phone calls with your prospects, that should never be your intention from a Facebook group or a hashtag. You need to bring them to your page. So that's what not to do. We're going to start there first because that's what a lot of online trainers are doing, which is why they're struggling. So how do you book phone calls? This is the base premise of where to find your hottest leads on Facebook so that you can book 5 to 10 phone calls a week. Number 1 is doing a specific call to action where you ask for a client. Now, most of you guys understand this, but this could be something like, I'm looking for 5 guys that are looking to lose 10 pounds in the next 30 days. If that's you, drop a fire emoji below, or any other sort of call to action that kind of relates to that. That's the hottest place to find the lead. Or where you go into your story and you're like, what's going on, guys? So I just had 2 people graduate my coaching program and I'm looking for 2 more. So if you want to lose some weight, if you want to lose some body fat, gain some lean muscle and get into the best shape of your life, just vote yes here and I'll reach out to you and see if I can help. That's the hottest place to find leads. When you just tell people you're looking for clients and you're, now accepting people into your program, that would be number 1. Okay. So that would be like the hottest place is you make a call to action and you get people to respond and then you DM them. The second hottest place is voters on your story or comments on a post. And so a really simple way that you guys can start interacting with your social media more and build more relationships is by doing voting polls on your story. So if you guys do voting polls in your story, like you could say something very simple, like what's the biggest thing you struggle with, diet or exercise? And then you just do 2 voting options. And then on the next slide, if you said diet, is it not eating enough or don't know what to eat? and you can do little like voting options. And then when people vote on your story, you guys have to think about it like this. If somebody is taking the time out of their day to watch your Instagram story and taking the time out of their day to vote on your polls, obviously they're somewhat interested in what you have to say. Otherwise, they wouldn't vote on your story and they wouldn't be on your polls. So for somebody to watch your content on social media and be absorbed in your message, that's somebody that's a warm lead. And they're taking the time to engage. That's somebody that you can start a conversation with. Now, remember, booked calls come from relationships. And so you shouldn't be opening up that DM trying to like book a phone call right away. You should be looking to establish a relationship. So when somebody, responds to your poll, you can send them a message and saying like, yo, Josh, thanks so much for engaging my poll, brother. I appreciate you. You mentioned that you struggle with diet. Like, what is it with diet specifically that you struggle with? Boom. Now you're in a conversation with a potential prospect. So the second hottest place to find leads is voters on your story or comments on a post. The third hottest place to find leads is likes on your photos on Instagram or Facebook. Guys, if you're making a post on social media about the three best ways to lose body fat and you get 100 people that like it, like those 100 people that liked your photo resonate with it on some level. Otherwise, they wouldn't have liked your photo. And so I'm not saying you should go in and try to book a phone call with everyone that likes your post, but you should at least establish a relationship with people that are on your social media. Most of you guys are trying to go so far and wide that you forget about the network that you already have. People that are already, like, for lack of a better word, fucking with your content. Like if somebody's liking your content consistently and they're following your journey, what if the message from you that says like, yo, Josh, thanks so much for engaging my content. I appreciate you. What if that message from you is like the spark that they need to start the conversation about their fitness goals? The third hottest place to find leads is people that are liking your photos on Instagram or Facebook. Just establish a relationship. Because remember, booked calls come from relationships. Number four, are you guys getting value so far? Is this helpful? The fourth hottest place to find leads as an online fitness coach is story views on your Instagram. So Instagram has a feature called Instagram Stories. If you guys aren't using it, then tune into this podcast and start using your Instagram Stories. But on your Instagram Stories, you can see who views your story. And so something that, we've done in PT Domination is we'll just go through the story views and start conversations with people that are engaging with our content. Yo, thanks so much for always watching my stories. I appreciate you so much. I just want to say I love the support. Starting a conversation with people. And that's the key. The intention has to be to build a relationship, not to go for the sale, right? Like even if they know you're a fitness coach, that's fine. You don't have to bring that up right away. They're going to see that in your bio. They're going to see that in your cover photo. They're going to see that in your profile photo. And if they make the decision to engage back with you, maybe that conversation leads towards fitness, and maybe that fitness conversation leads towards a book call. Booked calls come from relationships. So story views on your Instagram would be number 4. Number 5 and number 4 can be equal. By the way, I feel like they're kind of like the same. But if you have your own public group on Facebook, and so on Facebook, there's this feature where you can design your own group and you can run your own group. I recommend that a lot of my clients do a 14-day challenge and then create their own public Facebook group. But once you've got a public Facebook group, anybody that's in that group at some point in time has been interested in losing weight or building muscle or whatever your group is about. So if you run a group for fit moms and you've got 200 to 300 members in that group, those people have wanted to, or at some point might want to lose weight. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in a fit moms group. And so if you've got your own public group that you're running, that you're keeping engaged and active, that would be the 5th hottest place for you to find leads on social media. Okay, and let's get to number 6. The 6th hottest place to find leads on social media so that you can book 5 to 10 calls a week without sending spammy cold DMs is friends on your friend list or followers on Instagram. So again, with this, like one of my clients literally does this. He engages with his friends on his friends list. Once every 90 days, he'll just go through his friends list and send a message and say like, hey, I just want to say like, I appreciate being connected. Like it's great to be friends on Facebook. One of my clients does this every 90 days and he signs 5 to 10 clients every single time he does it. Your friends list or follower list on Instagram or Facebook is it's not the optimal place to find leads, but it's better than going to hashtags, because on hashtags, they have no idea who you are. At least if somebody's made the decision to follow you, they do know who you are. And if somebody's friends with you on Facebook, they have more of a contextual relationship than Facebook groups or hashtags. But most people will go to Facebook groups or hashtags before they'll go to their friends list or followers on Instagram. All right. And the 7th hottest place to find leads on social media is Facebook groups and hashtags. Now, again, When I think about a Facebook group, you guys, what I like to think about is a party. So in a Facebook group, there's like a big party. Everyone's talking, everyone's conversing, everyone's having a good time. Like if you join a big Facebook group, and if you just come into that party and you're trying to sell your personal training package right off the get-go, like you walk into the party, you don't even say hi to anybody. You're like, yo, what's up? I'm a trainer. So if any of you guys want to lose weight, like I'm the dude. There's going to be like, you know, if there's 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 members in that group, they're all going to look at you and be like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like you've got to go into the Facebook group and you've got to engage with the party. You've got to build relationships. You got to respond to some posts. You've got to be social on social media. And through being social on social media, when you do find those groups that actually have your targeted avatar in them and you spend time engaging with those groups, what's going to happen is they're going to see your profile. They're going to come to your profile and you're going to get some messages just because you're an active member of the community. And that's why I always talk about building relationships and giving value first. Like I always try to give more than I ask for. And so even when I'm going into a Facebook group, my intention is to give value. My intention is to respond to posts. My intention is to get my name in the newsfeed more, because if people start seeing my name pop up in the newsfeed, they're going to click on my profile and that's going to lead to more clients. Does this make sense? So for those of you guys that have been using hashtags or Facebook groups to book phone calls, that is something I no longer want you to do. This is what you need to do instead. So number one is if you have a small network, so maybe you're watching this or listening to this podcast and you're like, yo, B Mark, but like I only have 50 story views and I only have 100 followers and I only have 50 friends. Then what you need to do is you need to pull leads from Facebook groups and hashtags to your page, which means you need to completely change up the intention in which you approach Facebook groups with. Pretty much every single online trainer that I talk to that joins my program or doesn't join my program goes into Facebook groups looking for clients. Pretty much every single one. They're joining a group and they're like, yo, B, how do I book calls from this group? Yo, B, like, how do I get more clients from this group? Yo, B. And I'd say the same thing. What you need to do is you need to go into groups with the intention of giving value and starting conversations, because those conversations are going to lead to relationships that lead to book calls. One of my clients, his name is Jeffrey Eden. I told him this advice. He joined a CrossFit group. There was somebody that was like doing, I think it was a snatch, and he asked for feedback on his form. Jeffrey broke down every single part of the movement and what he was doing wrong. The comment got like 20 likes. And then Jeffrey started conversations with the 20 people that liked his comment. He booked 3 calls and he sold 2 clients because he gave value first. He wasn't going in there thinking like, I'm going to book some calls. He's like, no, he went in there to give value and actually like add to the group. And then people started engaging with with Jeffrey's comments. And then he started reaching out to those people. And then he booked calls and he sold clients. That's how it works. Your goal in Facebook groups and your goal in general on social media, I've talked about this everywhere, is to be the honey and not the bee. Here's how you make this happen. So what I'd recommend doing is finding 2 to 3 groups that have over 10,000 members that are your ideal client. In those groups, post 2 to 3 times a week, engage with every single person that engages with your post, spend more time conversing in that group and a lot less time worrying about how many people are coming to buy shit off of you. Over time, you're going to build a relationship with that group and people will come to view you as a trusted resource. So they'll come to you more, right? Cool. Okay. So that's step 1 is if you have a small network, spend time building a bigger network. Step 2, once people are on your page, you need to give them content to engage with, which is why I always talk about being consistent. Like if you're not posting 3 to 5 times a week, you don't want to make $10,000 a month as an online fitness coach. And if you think that you don't need to post 3 to 5 times a week, then go hire another business mentor that's going to promise you a quick fix and give you a shitty program. You need to post 3 to 5 times a week. We're on social media. Give value, give content. Once they're on your page, you need to be posting valuable content that people can actually get something from. When people engage with that valuable content, that's where you have a chance to start a conversation. Because you've already given first, you need to give before you ask. Because you're giving value first, when you open up that conversation, people are going to be a lot more receptive versus if you try to go into a hashtag and try to start a conversation with John Doe who has no idea who you are. All right, so there's a couple of different ways you do that. So if you're like building your network and you want to just get more people like into your program, there's a couple of different ways you do that. Number 1 is when somebody comes into your network, like you can just wait, like you can just wait for them to warm up to you. I don't like the wait approach personally. I'm more of a savage. So the second thing that I do is like run a 14-day challenge, like every 6 weeks or so. And then all the new connections that I just brought in, I will put them into my new challenge. Guys, and number three, I think that this is the most important thing. If you're not booking enough phone calls right now with potential clients, if you're not booking 5 to 10 phone calls a week, and you're posting 3 to 5 times a week on social media, and you might be interacting with the people that are on your page, and you're still not booking 5 to 10 phone calls a week, then you need to make sure that you spend time expanding your network. Now, expanding your network means you're pulling people to your page, which means that you do engage with people on hashtags, but your goal isn't to book calls. Your goal is to build relationships and pull them into your page. Because once they're on your page and they start engaging with your content, it's a lot easier for you to book a phone call with them. And yes, is this a slower play? 100%. But that's why it works. Like, it works because it's not a salesy, like slimy approach. You're actually building relationships. And the key is to be consistent. So many trainers will do this for 3 days and be like, yo, B Mark, I did what you said, and like, it didn't work. It's like, you can't do something for 3 fucking days. And then that's like going to the gym for 3 days and not losing 10 pounds and getting upset. It just doesn't work like that. You need to be the honey and not the bee. So spend 30 to 60 minutes a day expanding your network and actually being disciplined and diligent with that time. And over time, you're going to have a lot more phone calls that you're booking because more people are on your page. Does this make sense? So let's do a quick little recap for you online fitness coaches that want to book 5 to 10 phone calls a week. This is what not to do, okay? Do not go into Facebook groups and hashtags trying to book phone calls with potential clients. It just won't work. They have no idea who you are. That's like walking up to a stranger on the street and trying to sell them a fat loss program. They're going to be like, get out of my face with that. I'm good. All right. So don't try to do that. This is where you want to find your hottest leads. Number one is when you do a call to action, the people that respond, obviously that's the hottest. Number two, people who vote on your story. You can start a conversation with them. Number three, people who like or comment on your post. Number four, people that are viewing your story on Instagram, taking the time out of their day to watch your stories. Number five, if you have your own public Facebook group, there'll be some hot leads there. Number six, friends on your friends list or followers on Instagram. And number seven is Facebook groups or hashtags, which means you need to pull more leads from Facebook groups and hashtags to your page. Because if they're on the Facebook group or the hashtag, it's going to be really hard to book a phone call with them. Once they start engaging with your content, it's a lot easier, right? Now, once they're on your page, that's where you can go for those book phone calls. So again, doing your call to actions, going to the voters, going to the likes, going to the story views, going to the comments, right? So that's where you can actually book your phone calls. And the last and final thing that I just want to say is if you're not booking 5 to 10 phone calls a week, then you need to be spending 30 to 60 minutes a day on network expansion, which means pulling people from Facebook groups and hashtags to your page.